Hello everybody and welcome to the 10th episode in the AorbTech Pandas series. Today we're going to be looking at the GroupBy function. We're going to be starting with just GroupBy, and then we're also going to be looking at setGroup. This is going to be a pretty short episode. In this episode we're going to be looking at the GroupBy function and setGroups. So what does the GroupBy function do? Well, it's in the name. It allows us to take the data from our datasets and put them into groups, basically. So let's start by importing Pandas, of course, and importing our datasets. There we go. So to understand how this works, we're going to really quickly take a look at our most basic dataset. There we go, students. And we're going to separate the students by their sex. So let's create a new code block. We're going to say students dot group by. Then we're going to put the name of the column we want to group them by, so in this case sex. And then we're going to access it via using dot groups. And if we take a look, as you can see, it's separated them into the females column and to the males column. And inside here, we have the indices of all of those students. So let's take a look at the first two of each. So for example, at index 0 and 2, there are female students. So 0, we've got female, and 2, we've also got female. And then at indices 1 and 3, we have male students. So index 1 is a male, index 3 is also a male. So now that we know how that works a little better, let's try and access the second data set that we have, which is language learners. There we go. Now, let's try and separate these by the language that they speak. So we're going to say language learners dot group by, and then the name of the column, so language, just language, and we're going to access the groups. There we go. So we have, it seems, 3 people learning Arabic. We've got a lot of people, these indices, who know English, or who are learning English. We've got 4 people who can speak French or are learning French, 3 for German, 2 for Italian, just 1 for Japanese, 4 for Spanish, and 3 for Urdu. Okay. Now let's try grouping them by how many years they've been learning that language, or how many years they've been speaking it. So language learners dot group by, then we're going to say the name of the column, which is years practiced. Okay, years underscore practiced, and then groups. Here we go. So this is just a bunch of numbers, but it seems that there's one person who's only been learning for a year, 2 people who have been, or 4 people who have been learning for 2 years, 4 people for 3 years, 3 people for 4 years, and so on. Now let's see if we can group them by their language level. So language learners dot group by level dot groups. There we go. So we have 5 people in the A2 bracket. We have a lot of people in the B1 bracket. Same goes for B2. And only a few people in the C1 and C2 bracket, with seemingly no one speaking A1 in the data set. What we can also do is we can apply some transformations to this data. So for example, let's say we wanted to take a look at each language and how many years practiced it has on average. So what we could do is we could say language learners dot, we want to group by language. Within that, what we want to access is years practiced, and we want the mean of that. There we go, that's the function. That was pretty quick. Let me explain that. So what we're doing is we're grouping the language learners data set by the language column, and within those groups we're accessing the years practiced column. So that's giving us all of the years practiced that each language has, and then we're gonna aggregate that into a mean. So we have the mean of all of those years practiced, and if we take a look at that, this is what we get. So each of these languages has a mean amount of years practiced. So for example, Arabic has 3.66, and what we can do as well is we can round this so it's a little easier to read. So Arabic has 3.67, English has 9.14, German has 7.67, and so on. We can do something similar to check the relationship between the level of the language and how long you've practiced. And what we would assume is that the longer you've practiced the language, the higher level you're going to have. So let's test that hypothesis. Let's take our data set, so language learners. We're going to group by the language. Oh, there we go. Within that, we're going to access the, we're going to group by the level. And within that, we're going to access the years practiced. And we're going to take the mean, and of course we're going to round it again to 2, and let's see what it looks like. So actually it's quite consistent. So for A2 level, 2.2 years on average, B1 3.62, so it seems that they're increasing. C1, so to get from C1 to C2, 2 years based on the data set. So it seems to be consistent with what you would expect, which is pretty cool. Another interesting thing we can do is we can take a look at every name or every person and how many languages they speak. So we're going to take our data set, language learners, group by name, and we want to access the language column. So this will give us a group, it'll group our data set by the people. Within that group, we're going to access the languages they speak, so the language column, and we're going to use the sum function here. And this will give us, maybe we can use the count function. There we go. So this will give us not an aggregate string of every single language they speak, but it will give us the number of languages they speak. So it seems that Alice speaks the most languages, so a very, very driven individual, with a couple of people at close second, and then Emma and Frank speaking the least languages at 3 each. So getGroup is another function that will let us kind of separate these groups and find out which one of them share certain values in common. So let's create an example by first creating a group. We're going to say languages, and then we're going to set that to our data set dot group by the language column. There we go. And what we're going to want to do is languages dot, we're going to use the getGroup function. And let's say we want every entry in which someone speaks the language English. There we go. So now this is going to give us every entry with an English speaker. So let's extend this idea and see if we can get every person at the C2 level. So the top speakers, the top achievers. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new group. It's going to be called levels. We're going to take our data set. We're going to group by, there we go, and we're going to group by level column. Then we're going to take that new variable and we're going to get groups, we'll get group. And we want to access the group at level C2. There we go. So we have 3 people who can speak C2. Those are English, French, and German. So those are the highest level. We can do something similar here. We can access the level, let's see what's the lowest level. I believe it's A2 in this data set. So there are 5 people learning languages from the very beginning. So that's Alice, Bob, Carol, Emma, and Grace. And these are languages that they're learning. Okay, finally, let's see how many languages, well, let's try and separate this by the people. So let's take our data set. We'll create a variable called people. We'll take language learners, group them by their names. Then we're going to take that group, we're going to apply the get group function, and we're going to want to group them by a certain name. Let's start with Alice, because she seems to be a very high achiever in this data set. So we can see here all of the information about Alice. Now let's say we want to learn about David. So we can just take this same command and put in David. Now we have all the information about him and the languages that he speaks. So maybe we can see what they share in common. So it seems they both speak English. They both speak Spanish at the same level as well. They do not both speak French, but they do both speak German, and they both speak Arabic as well. Okay, or at least they are learning it. Okay, so that was quite a short episode, but I hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy, then please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon if you want to see more videos like this. And if you can, please share the video with a friend, because sharing the joy of learning is a fantastic thing. So if you'd like to see the rest of our series, we have one on Python and NumPy and so many more that we're working on. They are on our channel. If you would like the source code for this episode and for the other episodes, they are available in the description, and for the other episodes via our website as well. If you just go to the Pandas section, there it will be. But we also have everything else down there, so just check it out. You can also access this website here, this link. If you have any suggestions for us, make sure to leave them in the comments and we'll be happy to reply. If you have any questions, the same goes for that, and I hope that you have a lovely day. I'll see you in the next episode, and bye-bye.